But now, this is one of the significant contributions in the open economy. Now, let me interrupt myself for a while, because this is an important note here. I don't know if you read the book of the Oliver Blanchard, and if you compare the book, the textbook, and our class, I intentionally make it different in the following sense. In the Oliver Blanchard textbook, basically he started by introducing closed economy, okay? And then only after a few chapters later, he introduced the open economy, first by introducing the export-import, okay? And then later on he introduced the exchange rate, okay? But in our case, basically from the beginning, from day one, if you look at the notes from the first meeting, when I write the GDP by expenditure, there's already the net export there on the right-hand side. And the reason is because I don't believe that there is any country now in the world with this closed economy. So it's a bit too far-fetched to discuss about the situation which didn't happen in the world. Maybe in the 70s or in the 80s there are some economies that are still closed economy, okay? But nowadays there's no single country in the world that is closed. So that is the reasons why from the beginning we already opened the economy, okay? Now there's a consequence, however, when you start discussing open economy from the beginning, you have to introduce anything that may happen precisely because of the open economy, okay? And that's why at the early stage, we already talked about trade deficit, how it is linked with the fiscal deficit, and that leads to the twin deficit concept, right? And that's why we immediately talk about the UIP, uncovered interest parity, because in the ISLM closed economy, there is no exchange rate role there, right? And that's why you're only talking about how to determine the interest rate, because essentially ISLM is a model that determines the equilibrium of interest rate. But when there is exchange rate in the system, why? Because of open economy, then you have to include the UIP, because UIP essentially is models that try to see the link between exchange rate and the interest rate, right? Now, another important sort of factor when you open the economy is capital flows, okay? And by the way, this is really the component in macroeconomics which I think is very weak. I'm referring to the existing workhorse model. Remember, we are still in a workhorse model here, okay? So this is one of the reasons why macroeconomics is being questioned by many analysts, and especially when there are some extreme phenomena like financial crisis. All the standard workhorse macroeconomic theories that we know and we learn fail to explain that phenomena. Among other things is because the way they treat capital flows is highly limited, okay? So that's why the role of capital flows in the open economy is not only indispensable, but it's very critical. Why? Because it can, quote unquote, destroy the story of macroeconomics. Now, if I may test your attention, what is the story of macroeconomics? We discussed this on the first week, right? What is macroeconomics? Can anybody?
It's about equilibrium and disequilibrium.
Exactly. So The story of macroeconomics is a story of disequilibrium becoming equilibrium, disequilibrium, equilibrium. Yeah. But when you introduce the capital flows, that story from disequilibrium to equilibrium may not happen. So it is, in this sense, people started to question about the relevance of the standard workhorse macroeconomic models. Because if we rely on the models that we learn from the textbook, there should not be any crisis. Because any crisis, which is considered a deviation from the equilibrium, will automatically go back to equilibrium. But it didn't happen. That's why there was a crisis. Not only crisis, it's a major, humongous crisis, like in 2008. And because the model failed to predict that event of financial crisis, the model also failed to come up with policy advice or policy recommendation, because the model is not equipped. The model was not built to explain that extreme phenomenon. And what I said earlier is that one of the key reasons, one of the key factors why this happened, because they did not treat capital flows seriously. So I'm saying this because I want you to pay really close attention on the role of capital flows, because capital flows is one of the key reasons why macroeconomics workhorse models fail to explain the real phenomenon. Did I hear someone trying to ask question? I heard some noise there.
No,
Let me open your